And we're going to look as well. That's not why. But I don't. Well, we've just got it. Okay.
Somebody's in back there. Must be, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is everybody. We are recording and live streaming, so whenever you're ready,
Just pick my computer to load real quick.
no worries.
Everything up, I just wait on it to load. See, it's well, obviously.
So it should go up on its own. Yeah, it just takes a minute. It will be okay. I don't think that one shows up like on the live stream.
All right, ready.
All right, we're ready when you are.
Apologize for the delay. So I want to call to order the September 2023 Victorian Village hearing. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, September 27th, 2023 at 12 noon at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 205, this room.
So that's next door.
Oh,
Throwing you a curveball.
curveball for sure. All right, so we'll be next door for the business meeting. And then the next hearing will be Wednesday, October 11th, 2023 at 4 p.m., 111 North Front Street, second floor. And that will be back in this room, room 204. Okay. We're going to swear in staff. Can you state your names?
Kimberly Bernard Sheedy.
Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So introduction of commissioners present.
Robert Alton, Pete Schuler,
Linda Shaw.
Jeff Eason.
Sean Conyers. All right. And overview of any hearing format.
I think we'll cross that bridge if we need to get to it, and we'll kind of go through it as the meeting goes.
Awesome. And then you want to share something about the public forum.
Yes, so we have, I believe, Sarah Gallagher from the Friends of the Lower Olentangy Watershed to present the storm drain artwork. If you want to come up either to the podium or the chairs, you're
Is it
present.
okay if I just sit here? This is where I sat yesterday.
Yes.
I just wanted to come, sorry. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this project that we have done in the University District, and now we're coming to the Short North and doing it. So you can see on here some of the artwork that we did in the University District in May. And again, I'm Sarah Gallagher, Friends of the Lower Olentangy Watershed Flow. If you want to go to the next slide, our mission is to keep the Olentangy River and its tributaries clean and safe for all to enjoy through public education, volunteer activities, in coordination with local decision makers. And so I'm coming to you today about a public education project we're doing. This is a GIS map that we have on the flowohio.org website, and I'm looking forward to doing this again for the Short North project. This actually was we worked with a capstone class at Ohio State University. So we'll have all the different plots on it, just like this one, and a picture of the artwork. And actually on this one, if you, this is just a slideshow, but if you go to the actual website, it has more information about the artists as well and other ways to be eco-minded while walking down High Street. The next slide. Yeah, this is an example of just a little bit of information. The artist lets us know what they want to say. And then the next slide has some of the storm drains we're looking at. We're looking at 5 on the east side, 5, we've chosen 5 on the east side and 5 on the west side. And we worked with the Short North Alliance on that. Caitlin Dunn there. So we're really excited about that. And then I think I've got pictures of the storm drain artwork that we're going to be applying. I'm really excited about that one on the left-hand side. I think that just looks really awesome. And we'll be right next, obviously they're all right next to storm drains. If you want to, yeah, keep going. There are 10 local artists. We actually have 2 high school students who are participating in this one. We have some Ohio State student and other local artists. We're doing this project on October 7th. It'll be from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. or till the artist gets done. Last, in May when we did it, it was about, I don't know, I feel like I left around 8 or 9 actually. We do put a sealant on it right after they're done, as soon as it's safe to do that, with a little bit of grit so that they're safe to walk on and everything. Yeah, so I wanted to come and share and see if anybody had any questions. Yeah.
Is there a reason why you guys aren't doing it on Fourth also, as that's becoming a corridor with
No.
restaurants and traffic and that kind of stuff?
I would love to connect the two as well. So it's just funding. We have funding for 10 and 10. And so I could see us doing another project between the two.
Because I think it would be
As well.
very helpful.
That would be great. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yep.
We're always looking for more funding. We're working on funding right now for some Delaware County ones as well, because our watershed's a 32-mile stretch that flow works on from the Delaware Dam down to Confluence Park. So I'm hoping to do them throughout the watershed.
So if you don't mind, how much was is this project? Do you have an idea, ballpark?
No, but we pay the artists around $300 each to do it.
$300, okay,
Mhm.
good, good,
Yeah.
good,
So
thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, very cool.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So we switch gears, staff reports. So, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Kimberly, so we'll read through your list.
All right, starting on page 6. 1012 Hunter Avenue, 731 to 733 North High Street, 235 Wilbur Avenue, 717 Dennison Avenue, 53 Buttles Avenue, 609 Dennison Avenue, 964 Highland Avenue, 357 West First Avenue, 955 Highland Street, 61 West Second Avenue, 1156 Neal Avenue, 1172 Harrison Avenue, and finally 851 Neal Avenue.
Awesome, all right. So switch over to approval of last month's minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve last month's minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So Kimberly, you want to go ahead and walk us through?
All right, we will start with application number 1 for 326 Wilbur Avenue. If the applicant wants to make their way up here while I read the staff report, they're welcome to do so. So this application is to rebuild the existing privacy fence on the east and west property lines of the rear yard, rework the landing area around the basement access, and remove the sidewalk on the west elevation to add a planting bed below the existing stacked stone retaining wall to mirror the planting below the existing fence location, for a front sidewalk from sidewalk to porch, and move the existing stone steps approximately 18 inches west, and rebuild the existing deteriorated chimneys with the details to match those chimneys immediately to the east. The commissioners at the business meeting requested a photo and possible drawing of how the front retaining wall would interact with the relocation from the front walk. The applicant has provided a photo showing both sides of the front walk. Only one side of that walk has a retaining wall, while the other is just the landscaping. They also wanted confirmation that the rear steps were remaining in place, and clarification was requested regarding what the drawing of the 3-foot by 6-foot drawing was of. Staff recommends approval of the application as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. The basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11. These standards for alteration, as well as City Code 3116.13. These standards for site improvement and the Victorian Village Guidelines on fences and yards.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state your name, sir, and get you sworn in?
Josh Wood.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, I turn it over to you, sir. Anything to add or?
I think she said it well.
Okay.
I'll see if I have anything to add.
Okay, so, all right, team, so we're just gonna take it, there's a couple of different components, so, anything related to the fence that we wanna chat about?
No, we didn't have many questions. It was more kind of sort of the photographs and the angles that we were questioning. The one thing that I thought after I looked at it, since there isn't a retaining wall on either side, it would, and I don't know whether you can do this, but it'd be very neat if you could do this, is that step down is kind of drastic.
On the,
On the left side that I'm looking at,
yes, that's the retaining wall?
yeah, the retaining wall. It'd be
Yeah.
nice if you could get a curved stone piece to kind of ease that like you would do in woodwork. It would be tough to do, but something that would ease that drastic sort of step down. But it's not required, but I just thought it would be nice.
Okay,
But I mean, I didn't have any other questions from our business meeting.
Other thoughts? Perfect. All right, so, anything related to the chimneys that we needed to talk through?
Makes sense.
Okay, all makes sense, okay.
and it's fine for all three?
But they're all getting rebuilt to match, yeah.
Yeah, match existing.
That is the applicant's hope, yes,
That's correct.
or the homeowner's hope.
Just wanted to be sure. Kimberly, are we missing anything? It seemed like that was,
I do not believe so.
okay. And then the 3x6, that's just presumed to be a gate. So that's, right, is that a gate?
Or was that the planting bed, this picture?
Oh, that's just the gate.
Okay,
Yeah. You'd ask for a gate sketch and that's it, that's.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, right, okay.
So make motion for Victorian Village 2309-013-326 Glover Avenue as presented.
Give a second.
Second?
Take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck. This is a tough project.
The big one.
Weather. All right, let's see.
All right, application number 2, which is 365 West Hubbard Avenue. This application is to replace the existing GAF timberline in the natural shadow shingles with the Royal Sovereign GAF shingles in the nickel gray from the approved shingles list. Install the Cobra vent and galvanized metal for ridge and hips. Remove and replace the K-style gutters on the front portion of the house with 6-inch half-round gutters. Retain the K-style gutters in the back portion of the house. I have included the comments from the April 17th Victorian Village Commission meeting if the commissioners need to reference those. The commission at the business meeting expressed concern over the 2 types of gutters proposed. They weren't confident that the half-round gutters and K-style gutters would properly transition. Commissioners wanted to confirm that all ridges and valleys on the roof would be capped with metal, not just the main ridge. The commission discussed concern about losing a contributing feature of the box gutters. Staff recommends splitting the application into recommending approval of the proposed replacement shingles from the approved shingles list, the Cobra venting at the ridge, and the galvanized metal on all hips and ridges, and then continuing the proposed replacement gutters to allow the applicant time to develop an updated proposal more in line with City Code and Victorian Village guidelines. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, and the Victorian Village Commission guidelines on roofs.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state your name, sir, and get you sworn in?
Marlon Ayers.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
When I was in here before, we came up with a hybrid option to remediate this, and that was fixing the street facing portion of the shingles and the gutters to go to half round, which should be approved. So my proposal is I'm going to replace the entire roof with approved materials and then replace the street facing gutters with half round gutters.
Makes sense. Do you have any thoughts just in terms of some of the difficulty that's been talked about transition? Has that been talked through?
No, even, are you referring to the transition of the gutters?
The gutter styles, yes, sir.
I mean, I ran that by the contractor that's gonna do it, and it sounds like it's possible.
So I thought about this, and so I think our proposal was to maintain the front, meaning box gutters across the front, and then an alternate on the other three sides. So from a streetscape, we saw the box gutter.
You're saying that's what we talked about at the business meeting?
We talked about it, well, I think when they first came in as something that they should look into, not taking the half round as an alternate to the box gutter, but making sure that facade had and read as the box gutter like the other houses. Yeah,
The hard thing is the box cutter very much is a distinguishing feature of the style house. So the fact that it's gone and I believe removed without approval
That's correct.
is a big problem.
okay.
And with a house like this, with a hip roof, the gutters connect all the way around. They form a
So
circle.
one,
So
It's not
trying to
correct.
transition from one to another, I mean, I have a hip roof on my own house and recently had my gutters redone and just trying to get the miters to work between the same style of gutter and not getting them to leak
mhm.
is very hard. I can't even begin to imagine how you would detail going from a K style to a half round and not have it constantly leaking. And crazy.
So currently that makes sense. So I can't remember, to be honest with you, if what those proposals were, if we were considering that. Somehow the half round came about. So maybe it was on the perimeter, but I guess the application is to kind of maintain the conditions as they are now, structurally. Change the gutters to half round at the front to maybe mimic, the look and style of the previous box gutters. So, any concerns with that particular approach?
And the half rounds don't look anything like the level of detail that was with the box gutter. That's the hard thing.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
look at
look-
it, it's a whole built-in cornice
Yeah,
that's not missing
it's almost 12 inches of,
stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of shadow lines that are just gone now.
Yeah, and what concerns me, and I think we've said this before, is this kind of stuff happens and, if we just kind of approve, hey, here's the half round gutters, then who's not gonna take their box gutters off it? First time they need repair.
Yeah, it's hard to, when I kind of think about the replacement work, the thought about A and B, I understand staff's notion about continuing the discussion on the gutters. Part A in terms of replacement, I mean, if the decision and thought is to get back the box gutter, at least on the front, in terms of maintaining that presence, that work would have to be done during that.
During the re-roof.
So,
yeah, it's not one or the other.
Right.
so I just.
They have to come up in parallel, so.
I agree.
What if I were to put half rounds, replace all the K style with half round?
It's still, at some point, you lost a major contributing character feature of this house by removing the box gutter. A half round isn't what was there. It doesn't look like the box gutter. I mean, it is more appropriate than a K style, but it is not what was on this house and what was appropriate to this house. There aren't really aluminum or even copper versions of that mimic a box gutter.
Kimberly, I'm just kind of looking at your staff report. I'm just trying to, understand. I know there were some options that were put on the table, maybe the last time that would help with the potential hardship. But given what you're hearing from the commission in terms of, being able to get the presence of the box cutters back, help us along that path.
I can try, because there's always options,
For sure.
which are typically approval with conditions, continuing, or denial, which we don't like to avoid, work with everybody
Exactly, yeah.
on. So if the applicant would like, we could always continue it so they could explore additional options. If anybody has any thoughts to any approvals with conditions, we might be able to entertain that as long as the applicant and the commission are okay with it. Denial is always an option I'd like to avoid. But if we have to go down there, I will guide that as needed.
Okay.
So I have a question. So when we say box gutter, are there, this isn't in my wheelhouse at all.
I know way more than I should. I bought
So-
issues.
So the question is, are there options of replacing the box gutters
Yeah,
and varying expense lines for replacing the box gutters? Or are we saying it has to replicate exactly what was on the house? That,
So the hard thing is, if you're repairing them, there are, once you've removed them, now you gotta rebuild them.
Mhm.
So in some ways they make life much harder by removing them without approval than coming and talking about options to repair. Because if they're still there, you can line it with rubber versus lining it with copper. Obviously copper will last longer than rubber, but rubber's a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
But once they're gone, now you're looking at rebuild.
And then are there variations of rebuild on what? I mean, I don't know.
But are you saying like, could you just do a facade on the front and not on the side?
No, I'm saying if we're replacing the box gutters,
Are
like,
there different things you can make them out of?
yeah, so is there a Hugo version, a Cadillac version, and something in between? Or is it just, there's just one gold standard of what a historic box gutter consists of and how it operates? And that's what you have to do, I guess. That's,
Kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I think other than the lining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on a house, it's typically wood. On a commercial building, sometimes you will see them made out of architectural sheet metal.
Mhm.
Which sometimes if it's large enough, you can redo out of fiberglass.
Mhm.
I don't know that that would be cheaper on a house.
okay.
So, all right, so we have the two options. So it seems like continuing would be an opportunity here to be able to explore being able to get back the box gutters and how that may take shape. Or there could be an approval of items A with the understanding that the box gutters will come back.
And A is the roof?
That's correct. Replacement of the roof with the components that we talked about, with the conditions that the box gutters are going to be brought back. If there's this hybrid
I
condition,
got you.
if there's a hybrid condition where we're thinking about transitions between, and we're going to address the box gutters only on the front, potential K-style or potential OG gutters, on the balance of the home, then I think that's where we need to continue that portion. And I think commission-wise, we're probably going to try to continue both A and B because they seem like they have impact on one another. We just don't want to see you start to proceed with some work. We help you be able to move forward. And then all of a sudden it challenges you with another difficulty and you're not necessarily moving forward overall. So I think I want to try to keep them together from that perspective. Or the last one would be reviewing or I should say, a motion based upon what we have presented today, which based upon what I'm hearing is most likely a denial of what the application specifically said. I think that those are maybe the three options that have been talked about today. Is there a preference or additional thoughts that we can help you move forward with this?
So I should go get quotes to rebuild the box gutters.
With the understanding that I think that the commission is open to helping resolve this in terms of materiality, in terms of transitions, things of that nature. But it would be helpful to probably have some some better understanding what can be accomplished with the understanding that what I'm hearing today is the commission would love to see the box culvert gutters presence back with the resulting solution.
Because I believe the guidelines even specifically call out box gutters as things that shouldn't be removed in the notice of everything.
For sure.
Yeah, they're very specific about it.
And there's been, I'm just kind of thinking in the past, there's been a couple homes that have had similar conditions that have happened, and they have had to go in and do some extra work to kind of get that presence back. And they have come forward with some details and such and worked through it. There was a home that was on Dale Avenue not too long ago, where the renovation, exterior renovation, kind of got the scope increased and they were not aware of it. So their contractor thought it was, rotted wood, and it just kept going in a snowball. And so they had to hire another contractor and kind of walk it back. And we worked alongside of one another for about, a month and a half or so, sharing details to get that back. And a phenomenal process. So I think that we just need a little bit of that dialogue to be able to help you move forward.
Okay, when I left here, I thought that the option was what I presented today. I went out and got those quotes and I came back with what was asked me to go do. I did that. I can go get quotes for the box cutters. It sounds like there's no other options but the box cutters. You want to go back to box cutters. Is there another hybrid option? Is there anything else but box cutters that you would accept? Because that's going to be nearly a 6-figure job, and I'm not going to pay for that. I have a child on the way. I'm not paying for that. I'd rather take a misdemeanor than pay for that.
Understandable. Kimberly wanted a little bit of help. Yeah, regarding that.
So the options, it sounds like, well, as presented are either continuing it or voted on as presented. And if we want to vote on it as presented, the applicant, that's okay, as Sean mentioned, and the commissioners have been discussed, it sounds like it might be a denial. If that's the way the vote goes, I will cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay,
So I don't want to put the cart before the horse here.
understandable. And so I think what she's saying is that if we move forward with what you've presented today, and there is a denial, there's a different process from that perspective. And but that's a different process. That's why I asked her for help. So
I don't
And
think
again-
I have any options here.
I think our hands are tied similarly. And I will just echo though that we are definitely willing to help see if we can resolve this. I just think we need a little bit of more dialogue on seeing if there is an option that maybe hasn't been discussed, with the contractors.
You guys are the experts. You gotta help me out. Where are those options at?
And I know we may present ourselves as being aware as experts, but I think the dialogue, every home is completely different from that perspective. I should only just say that we are open to opportunities, exploring transitions and trying to get the character back.
And
Versus,
so here's what I would say. As typical, and I might get poo-pooed for this, and I've been poo-pooed before. As these facades have always been, nice brick on the front, construction brick on the back. If you come in with an option where you have your box gutters wrapping to a certain extent, so the front and my visual is complete, and then I have no idea how you do it. The rest of the house has half rounds on it, but there's that transition. I would support something like that without having all but my facade and my front, not just a row, but it has to be true architecturally and drainage wise. I would be open to something like that. I think that's a valid option in this situation, even though you took the things off. Not to say you have to replace them all, but I would go for that. That's me.
I think I agree with that.
Okay, I'll look into that.
So I think this gives you something to look at. I think you can make decisions from them and then come back and then you will go from there. But I think that would be a solution, but I think that's a difficult solution because I don't know how drainage works.
that's all. So, is that fair now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and continue the whole and keep them together, let you explore those opportunities. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, is there a motion? To continue?
A motion for VV 2304010365 West Hubbard Avenue to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, the next application is number 3, which is 840 Park Street. The applicant wants to come up while I read the staff report, they can do so. So this application is to construct a single-story screened porch on the rear elevation of the existing structure. So the commissioners at the business meeting noted the potential of modified original openings. They requested documentation of how the rear windows would change to allow access from the house to the proposed sun porch. Some commissioners noted that the proposed design was not appropriate for the house as it did not match the character of the existing structure, specifically citing that the eaves were too large in comparison to those of the existing home. Commissioners also noted the proposed skylights in the design and questioned if they were appropriate. The applicant has let staff know that they view the porch as one that could have been part of the original house, designed and detailed as they believed the original architect, Charles Chubb, would have done, and they have the original drawings for reference. Staff has included the 1922 to 1951 Sanborn map, which shows a single-story porch on the rear of the structure, which appears to still be there today. The applicant has also submitted some additional documentation as well, which is included in the materials. Staff recommends continuing the application to allow the applicant time to update the proposal to be more in line with the existing city code guidelines. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, these standards for alteration, as well as 3116.12, these standards for new construction, and the Victorian Village guidelines on new construction.
When you state your name, sir, can you swear?
Yes, Ted Goodman.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, she has outlined my commentary for that project pretty well. We wanted the porch to be as the original architect would probably have done it. And my gut feel about the house is that it was always begging for a backyard relationship, but never was actually built as a part of that. You can see how bare the rear elevation is when you go to that one shot of the rear, if we could. That one. And this completes that. Another practical problem we have is we have this terrible mosquito problem in our yard. There's a lot of growth back there, and almost to the point we can't use it unless we bring in chemical spray and all that sort of thing, which we do before events when we have them there. But I thought that the design should look, as we've said, as if it had been done originally part of the structure. So the details of the porch will be as true to that as we can make them. The columns for the porch will be large enough to have this scale of, the height with proportions that are already on the front entrance entablature. So the back will be consistent with those kinds of proportions. The overhang, there is no other overhang on the house that much. That's true. But the objective was to protect the screen porch from rain and weather. But I thought that it also was not out of character with, even in the federal style, as to how accessory structures might originally have been done, pergolas and cabanas and such. So that kind of framing, which is a little lighter in character than the house framing, didn't feel out of place for me. And of course, it's on the rear elevation, which is shielded from the public view. But I still want it to be consistent with the building, just as you say. Regarding the skylight, it'll be a low profile, more like an architectural slot against the house wall, so that we bring some light in to an area of a porch that often gets dark right where you enter the house. And so it won't be visible from the exterior. It's only going to be about a 9-inch high slot with some plastic glass over it, plastic glass. And another key factor is the existing opening for access to the screen porch will be the same character as the one that's already there. We're not going to change the span at all. We will extend the door to the porch down to the finished floor. And I'd hope to put in a multi-panel door that'll have the same number of panels as the existing windows do already. So it'll be consistent with the look that's already there. The doors will be full width bifold nano wall, if you know what those are. So we can have a free flow of space on the interior. And I thought that it was an appropriate way to bring contemporary living to a very traditional Williamsburgian federal colonial style, if I can call it all those things, to that house. The house isn't really as old as many of the others in Victorian Village. It was built in 26. Believe it or not, my wife and I are the second owners of that house. It was built for the people whose estate we bought it. So we're going to make it as long as they made it, hopefully. So I want everything to feel completely natural and harmonious with the original.
Appreciate your detailed description, sir. So thank you. All right, so I guess we got kind of three components. So, so it seems like, you know, massing wise, there was some conditions that were talked about. The skylight, I think, was a comment, and then the third is just kind of the existing opening. So any thoughts, or who wants to kick us off related to if we want to split those into those three components, or we just want to offer some feedback in general?
Well, it's interesting. So we had a lot of discussion on this at the business meeting, and I thought about it, thought about it, and thought about it. And I liked your commentary on it of, you know, this could happen. It's not out of line. I think the thing that we, you know, struggle with, whether it's a backyard that has a door to a carriage house and you want to open it up to the backyard so it becomes a contemporary use of things. I think my only, my drawback was, and at first when I heard it, I looked at it, I think the proportions of the porch, the sort of wings, how the eave is really sort of over exaggerated. And that from an architecture standpoint, I wish it could be a little bit more refined. And then the other thing, I'm fine with the opening to bring that use to the backyard and engage. But the other thing was the sort of the strangeness of the skylight also. So the eave and the skylight were my two things that I think could use some work.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. So it boils down to the skylight or not for me, because I can't make it any lower profile than what it already is.
I was gonna say, I can live with the skylight. It's the eave, I think, is still too pronounced for this style of house. There's different style houses from this time period that have that, but they are not this style. The style of house is much more minimal, not as pronounced in its eve conditions with the brackets and things like that. It just needs to come in.
Do the rafter tails need to go away?
I think so, and honestly, if you have insect problems, that's probably a better thing anyways. You're gonna spend a lot of time cleaning up cobwebs and everything else from them. But the rafter tails were, I mean, nowhere else on your house does it have exposed rafter tails. But I think it goes in to be more in character with the style of this particular house.
I could reduce the overhang, clean up the detail.
Yeah.
And then the other question I had is when you zoom in, what does the porch sit on? I just see sort of a, sort of a grid, but what?
Yes,
is
there'll
that?
be a cedar or cypress lattice that we build from the porch rim down to grade. The porch will be on a pier foundation held back and underneath.
Got it. Okay, now I see it. Okay.
So he's just basically scraping off the base.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the stair composition or any of that, how it translates to?
I mean, I think it's elegant. I think it looks good. I think we just have to, they said, to touch up those couple things, and I think
I agree.
it'll be very successful.
Awesome.
Okay,
So sir, if we kind of motion to continue, be able to incorporate some of these thoughts?
okay, if I were to make some revisions, do they have to go back through the whole cycle, or can staff review them?
It seems like it would probably go back to that same
So-
process.
I'll add a like caveat. Since it sounds like we're continuing, you
Yes.
get a week from today to submit updated materials for the October agenda.
Yeah, it's
So it wouldn't be waiting until the November agenda. If you could get the updates, it would just be October.
Okay.
And then if the commission had a quorum at the business meeting and everybody was in support of what updates were made, they thought they looked good. It could possibly be moved to staff approval at the business meeting, but I don't like kind of holding my breath on that because everybody's schedules are so very different, so we don't always have quorums then.
Okay,
That's a pretty quick.
well, I could get things to you in a week,
Okay,
and I know the architect.
that's good.
Okay.
If he's in.
Perfect. All right, so
Okay,
is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue BB 2309-014.
Is there a second?
Second?
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know Ingrid is currently out of the room at the moment. Is there anybody here for 11:35 meal? So you want to run out real quickly and let her know she's.
Hey, Mr. Goodman, could you tell her to come in?
He started here,
You said.
Us old people get no respect. No respect.
You're not over years.
All right. So this application is number 4 for 1135 Mill Avenue. This application is to add various plantings in the front and side yards, including 2 serviceberry trees and 2 crimson queen Japanese maples. Add 6 boulders to the front yard and install gravel walkways around both sides of the house. The commissioners at the business meeting requested current photos of the front and side yards where the plantings are proposed. They requested confirmation that the existing retaining wall and wrought iron fence are not part of the project. Commissioners noted that the proposed rocks were replaced. They also wanted to know if there would be any edging for the gravel. Would an alternative material such as permeable pavers be acceptable for the proposed design? Something to discuss, or is the commission okay with the gravel walk around the house if there's appropriate edging? I had sent the commission and I had meant to send our applicant, and I'm sorry, the day got away from me. We did receive a public comment from your neighbor, Mr. Gardner.
The south.
Yes, just with some concern about drainage issues. So I will probably send that to you tomorrow, once I get back to my desk, so you have that for your file, for your record. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the boulders are removed from the proposal, and if wanted, new plants are added to the area. Updated drawings would need to be submitted to HBO staff prior to issuance of certificate. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, these standards for alteration, as well as City Code 31.16.13, these standards for site improvement, and the Victorian Village Guidelines on fences and yards.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state, you've been here before. Can you state your name, get you sworn in?
Ingrid Navarro.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so I redid the landscaping plan that I had previously submitted. This was done by a landscape architect. And I am not strongly in favor of the boulders or not. I can remove those. And there will be a metal siding to keep the gravel in the pathway. And I do have a photo that I can submit. There's a similar pathway a couple doors down from us where they did something similar, and that's where I like the draining of this kind of material more than using cement or like a sidewalk, but and I need to submit photos. I think you asked for photos for the front and the side. The iron fence is not part of that, and that's almost completed. That's been repaired and centered
I do remember that.
according to
Yeah,
our last plan
Yeah.
when we were here. So that's done.
okay.
So I think the last few things is the landscaping.
So with some of the things that are pending, is it the thought that those things could go through with staff's review again? Or-
If that's okay with commissioners, unless somebody would want to see it as part of the subcommittee.
Okay, was just curious. Okay, all right, so I'll open up for comments.
I would just say that the guidelines say sidewalks are brick or concrete, so I think if we're finding gravel is approved, some sort of exception to that, I suppose. Some sort of reason for that exception.
No, that makes sense. I mean, there are a couple of homes that are right in that adjacent area that have some similar conditions. I don't know what was prompting those, or if there were drainage concerns and that's what yielded that, I'm not sure.
I think there's a good reason for the exception.
So,
Or do you need me to check approvals?
that'd be great.
Do what?
Do you need me to check approvals for neighboring properties? I can do that
I
as
think
well.
it would be good, just only from a perspective of when the infill was being proposed, there was just a lot of review related to those adjacent neighbors, just making sure that there was compatibility and not necessarily of the structure, but the details of the structure. And so that could help us from that perspective, I think, yes. Any other thoughts? I know we're missing Tim today,
The
so,
landscape guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Plant material pretty common, native plants pretty common.
This is a pollinator garden, so I do need to check to see if these are native, but I would hope that they are, but yeah, that's something that I haven't checked and I'll check. But that was the intent of the garden it's a pollinator. Yeah, it says it there, pollinator garden.
All right. So just kind of thinking now, so material wise, composition wise, no concerns. It's just the material on the sidewalk. And then.
It was the boulder,
And then
the boulders were the big,
Yeah.
Which she said she's fine with doing.
After everything's like.
what do they have to do with pollination?
I-
The buds sit on, I'm just asking.
I could see why he added that at the time, because you know, the house wasn't finished, but now that like we have our sidewalks done, like I think we can remove them, like it's not adding what I think it would have added before, like, and I could see where he was coming from with by adding those, but
If you bought them, use them on your next project.
no, I did not buy them, and it's okay, it's one less heavy thing that we have to move, so.
All right, so do we do an approval with some of these additional elements coming back as a subcommittee review?
Think so.
I think that's fine.
So on the off chance, we do get some additional sidewalks to look at. How does the commission want to handle it if by chance they have not been approved? I'm just thinking worst case scenario, if something tangles things up.
If it goes to subcommittee and they're not comfortable with can they bring the? Oh,
We can.
Can we ship it without them having to change their application and can we ship that?
The only problem would be we don't want to review the same thing twice. So. If Yeah, I've just essentially stumped myself to how to get around that. So I know Ingrid had sent me pictures of a similar gravel at a neighboring property. And that unfortunately did not have approval.
Gotcha.
So I'm just worried that additional places,
Our neighbors,
I don't have an approval for that gravel. It went in recently.
well, so the material that is two houses north of us on the sidewalk, and then the material that is in the back driveway of our south neighbor, which is here, without those, the big pieces of gravel normally are not in that material. I think that was just, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
I don't think that was part of their material originally, or maybe that was something that was like a base.
Well, no, it could have been a gravel base and they put pea gravel on it and finally it's worked its way through.
Yeah,
Was likely.
with a heavy vehicle, maybe that's kicking stuff around, I don't know, but that's the same material. It's the same, like color, same size.
I mean, the only thing that I could say is, you know, if you want that pea gravel effect, you know, you see it in Florida. The pea gravel that's sort of encased in
Yeah,
whatever it is,
Buff wash or something like that.
Yeah.
so it doesn't move it.
one more thing though, that doesn't help with the drainage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just gonna,
yeah.
I mean, even if it turns out that the other sidewalks, then give it to them. The subcommittee could be on drainage clearance.
So let's go for it. Let's go for it and try it. And
All right.
Brian, just try to help it move forward. And then
If
if we have to revisit it,
Yeah.
if you find that none of those are there,
sure.
then we'll revisit it.
Sounds
Is that
good.
okay?
That's okay. I'll get you further reasons this time.
Okay, I think that's very helpful. I think the drainage is a big component of that perspective too as well.
Okay.
And then the south neighbor, is it their concern? Okay.
You
So-
explain layman's terms what's going on with that, that's what committee is.
So a subcommittee would be just a portion of the commission. Typically, it's 2 to 3 commissioners that review the material. So you'd send in, typically an applicant would send in updated materials, in this case, removing the boulders and kind of working that area. You get it to me, I send it to the commissioners, give them about a week to return comments. And then either let you know if they had any questions or concerns or send over a COA. I do like to caution people, it's typically not as quick as we'd all like it to be. These are volunteers.
Yeah.
So sometimes they miss my emails, they go on vacation, they have work projects or just things that, you know, in their regular lives that kind of interfere. But we try to be as speedy in their replies as we can be.
Great definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Okay,
sense.
so, a motion.
This motion to move it to subcommittee.
So we got a motion, to approve as submitted. I think we've indicated that the voters have been removed from the application. And we'll review as part of a subcommittee. Imagine if I was subcommittees. I think she has the understanding of the material that is going to be, she's going to find, maybe Kimberly's going to find an understanding of the material for the sidewalks. And that will be,
So I would say, approval with the condition that the boulders are removed and the landscaping in that area is reworked unless, if it's just the cleaning of time or whatever additional plant materials are put in. And then with the walkways, for the additional addresses to be submitted, just to check. And with that, both the landscaping and potential walkways to be reviewed by a subcommittee of XYZ. I know that was not an easy motion to craft, but you can always cheat.
So who's gonna ferret that?
Okay,
What,
so motion, what staff said?
yeah,
thank
motion for BB 2309
you, Kimberly.
015, what Kimberly said. And we want to put Tim on the subcommittee.
Oh,
He's a landscape architect.
true, but he's not here to agree.
We're gonna,
That's okay.
I think Tim.
We're all in agreement.
We are.
But typically you need somebody here to consent.
I think we're gonna identify some additional.
That doesn't quite work. I will ask Tim if he's okay being on the subcommittee without being here.
That's understandable.
So who else besides Tim? Because he says no, he's not comfortable doing it.
I'll do it.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, so Commissioners Dodson and Hisson as well.
Perfect.
All right, and give me a second to finish typing out the
Second.
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I need to finish typing the motion before I forget it.
Take your time.
If you'd like to think of reasons why we'd be approving the walkways.
Drainage concerns.
All right, anything else besides drainage concerns, or is that just the,
So I think it's also unique in that it runs on both sides of the property, right? So if it were to be a paver or concrete, I think it's a little more brutal, but I think if it was just one side, it might be more of an issue, but it really softens and doesn't detract from the house the way that
That's a good
it
one,
would if it
Robert.
was just one side. So the fact that it's both, I think softens quite a bit.
okay,
It's more appropriate.
Thank you, Rob.
thank you.
All right, any further discussion? You want us to move forward or are you?
Yes, I'm all good.
Oh, okay. So, a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to application number 5. This is for 1217 Neal and 1223 Neal Avenue. So this is landscaping for both properties. For 1217, it is to restore and reset the retaining wall, adding a course to retain the existing soil due to the steep slope. Reinstall the wrought iron fence on top of the retaining wall to match the existing wall slope. Remove and build a new fence on the north property line. The parcels are being replatted to match their historic boundaries. So an easement has been agreed upon by the two owners to allow for the retention of the drive. Now, the area is approximately 6 feet by 150 feet. Landscaping for 1223 is to replace the driveways, collapsing curbs and retaining walls, remove the existing concrete driveway and replace with the new asphalt drive. And a new driveway would include an 8-foot parking area next to the existing garage and add new concrete steps to this existing driveway to the front porch on the south elevation and add new plantings as well. The commissioners at the business meeting requested clarification if the wrought iron fence would be replaced or reused at the side of the property. Commissioners noted that it would be helpful to highlight the plan noting which edge conditions would remain and which ones would be replaced, specifically for the retaining walls and curbs. Examples of the existing asphalt driveway on Neal Avenue was requested. One has been submitted and I did not see an approval for it. I'll let the applicant further explain, because I think there's another one on Neal Avenue that we've also noted. Concern was expressed about the water runoff, where it would go, as there was an extensive paved area that would be proposed. The applicant has provided an example of 983 Neal Avenue as the asphalt driveway. And as I said, there's no approval on file, but from what I could see on Google Street View, it appears to have been completed prior to 2007. Staff recommends approval of the application as submitted with any clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of certificate. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, these standards for alteration, City Code 3116.13, these standards for site improvement, and the Victorian Village guidelines regarding fences and yards.
Kimberly, can you say your name, sir, and get you sworn in?
Yes, Matt Kirkowitz.
Or do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Right, sir. Turn it over to you, sir.
Yeah, my name's Matt. I own the house to the south, 1217, and I'm here on behalf of myself as well as my neighbor, Pat Mahoney. Pat's elderly, would like to be here, but mobility issues limit his access. We've been neighbors since 2014 when I moved in, and this is our opportunity to clean it up. I know you guys have some questions about some of the conditions proposed. Happy to answer any of those questions, and specifically follow your lead on the conversation around materials.
Awesome. All right. T.
Is that existing driveway completely, is it concrete?
It's all concrete.
It's all concrete, it's just dark.
It's grass and dirt in some spots.
Okay.
Sorry.
Staff can confirm it's in pretty rough condition.
Yes.
And this has got to be the longest driveway in Victorian Village, I believe.
The lots are 150 feet, and this goes almost all the way back. So I think the house, the front of the carriage house is probably 20 to 25 feet off the back property line.
All the houses probably on that block to keep or to fit have a lot of long driveways.
Yeah, we're one of those lots, as you guys know,
Yeah.
the grid kind of goes like this, and so we don't have an alley behind us.
Yeah.
So it's the condition that makes us a little bit different.
Yeah. Very good.
And there's that one block south, I think the 900 block, I think that also has that same thing where the grid's coming up.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of driveways there as well.
So I think clarification on everything that was asked for.
Yeah, that
was
highlighted map is really helpful.
for sure. So I think the only item was really just the material and or concrete that was being proposed. If there was thoughts on preference to make this condition a little bit more appropriate.
Well, we talked about pavers, we talked about brick, we talked about water retention, we talked about a whole bunch of things. That's a lot of concrete, whether it's asphalt or concrete. But then the more I thought about it, the old driveway that had, the runner with grass or monkey grass between that. I mean, there's 20 million things to do when it's a short run, but when it's a long run like that, kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. So I guess I'm fine either way.
Yep, I'm fine with it too.
So you said asphalt or concrete?
Yeah. Yeah, and just for clarification, it's not my decision. Ultimately, it's my neighbor who's making the choice. We're struggling right now in pricing. We're quoted out on both materials. I was expecting the unit price on concrete to be a little bit more of a premium than it is relative to asphalt. Right now, the actual variance between the two is not as big as you would expect from a real estate developer. So it is right now. I've gone to Pat and said, Pat, this is where we are. it might just make sense. I would prefer concrete, mine's concrete. Might just make sense for you to do concrete as well. I know that if all things were even, he would prefer concrete. But as it is, as you would imagine, it's a large driveway and he is, elderly and, you know, not necessarily, excited about spending $50,000 on the driveway, but you know, it's a pretty hefty bill. So the flexibility is more so, and we are looking at some of the material, you know, marrying of materials, some of the things, if you took the stem of, you know, the trunk of the driveway concrete and in the back, more asphalt. We're trying to play with those things in response to some of the comments that you shared with us. And, right now, you know, the flexibility is the request. But I would think that we're actually more likely to be moving in concrete direction.
Yeah, I think my strong preference is concrete, just given compatibility with the adjacent properties on that street and Neil Avenue and Victorian Village in general. You don't see a lot of asphalt driveways, and I just get a little bit worried about approving it here, and then all of a sudden people want to replace their pavers, you know, when they start breaking, with a lot cheaper asphalt, you lose a lot of that character.
It's permitted though in guidelines.
Asphalt?
Concrete or asphalt are preferred paving surface for parking spaces.
But that's parking spaces, not necessarily driveways.
Parking surfaces and drives, sorry. Didn't finish reading.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm just kind of.
Good addition.
Yeah, thank you.
Good addition to the commission. Details.
I've been told several times by Ken. Back it up.
See, somebody's paying attention.
Completely.
Give him a cookie out of that box. You got to tell him one, Ken.
It's public record, we're live streaming. And plus, I cannot drive people.
It's the guide. The guide, it's not in the code. Just Google, you just search.
So-
Just purpose.
So is there a strong preference? Again, for me, it's just really compatibility with those adjacent homes that are on that block. They're predominantly all concrete.
I would prefer concrete.
You know, so at least then it's compatible, it goes away, and there's not a new material being introduced in that kind of block and a half.
And it can maintain itself. for a
Yeah,
while.
completely. And that, from a standpoint of longevity, that front end cost maybe just to, depending on the numbers, but longevity wise, it's going to get a better product, you know, maybe from that perspective, so.
Indeed. Yeah, I think it's I think it's 15 to 20%, right now, premium for the concrete, which, believe it or not, was a little less than I expected. I thought it was gonna be. Or more, I'm sorry, less than I expected, but.
I think some combination, like you mentioned, sounds great, like concrete up front where it's visible.
I think we'll be open to something like that. So if we were to go ahead and approve what's been talked about today with concrete, and then if there's some variation, that it would just kind of come back. Is that what?
Yes, so, yeah, I think any approval today is going to be helpful, to the extent that there was, to your point, a willingness to allow for us through where the grading, you know, the retaining walls kind of continue all the way to where it opens up in the back. If there was a willingness to consider a motion where we had flexibility and materiality at the back, but it's committed to doing concrete down the trunk of the driveway where it's, you know, more right in your face when you're on Neil, that would be helpful. But yeah, we're finalizing and trying to pin down concrete strategy first. That's our priority.
Okay, so in the motion is all concrete with the understanding that,
If there's a
There's a
variation,
variation.
you'll do a subcommittee or it'll come back.
exactly. Yeah, is that correct? Okay, is there a motion, T?
Make a motion for BB 2309-016, is it 1217?
Correct.
1217 Neil Avenue. And motion is for replacement of the driveway, total driveway in concrete. If there are any variations to the back piece of the property, it'll come back to the commission for review
And then the balance of the application is just as submitted.
as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion at all? Kimberly?
Well, good.
Aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Very
Thank you so
exciting.
much.
Thank you. Good luck,
guys.
All right, the next application is number 7, which is 335 West Third Avenue. You want to come up while I read up the staff report? So,
I may need to recuse myself, but I'm not sure.
all right, if you want to do it, just to be on the safe side.
Her husband works for me.
Okay, so we're gonna assume, we're gonna play it safe.
Okay, that's why I was like, yeah, as soon as I started walking, so.
So, for recusals, you can stay in place and stay quiet, go to the back of the room, or leave the room entirely.
Right in there.
Okay,
It's just,
if you start making faces at people, so we're but thank you for letting me know. All right, so for the staff report, this application is to replace the existing storefront windows on the north elevation with new wood glass storefront within the existing openings. Install 2 new masonry storefront openings on the west elevation and install a new patio space along Harrison Avenue and the rear of the building. The rear patio would be partially covered. And install a new building mounted awnings with seasonal enclosures. I have included the comments from last month's meeting for the commission for reference, as well as for the applicant's reference. The commissioners at the business meeting requested to see more improvements to the right of way. They noted that a conceptual level type of plan or drawing would be acceptable. They questioned where the precedent for enclosing the patio was with Victorian Village. HBO staff noted that there was an enclosure approved on North High Street, but this was a seasonal igloo-like enclosure, so similar but a little bit different. Concern was expressed about parking, as it appeared that there are more seats being added on the exterior. The applicant should reach out to the Department of Building and Zoning to confirm if there were changes to the parking count. The applicant was encouraged to try and be more creative with the tree screening. Engaging a landscape architect was encouraged. Some commissioners noted that the proposed awnings were modern, as were the 2 examples provided. They also expressed concern with the amount of awnings, as well as noted that drainage solutions needed. The applicant submitted updated materials addressing row improvements noted on sheet A3. The requested future signage, updated tree species, and drainage for the proposed awnings. HBO staff has included Sanborn maps with materials. These maps show the evolution of the building, starting with the 1891 Sanborn, which shows a building at the corner of West 3rd and Harrison Avenue. Additions were added by the 1921 to 51 Sanborn. Awnings during this period would have been cloth, similar to those on North High Street. Staff does not support the addition of openings where there weren't historically windows and doors. Staff recommends the continuation of the application to allow the applicant to update the design to be more in line with the existing code and guidelines. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, these standards for alteration, as well as the guidelines concerning commercial patios and outdoor dining, and the short north design guidelines on lighting and signage, specifically the projecting blade sign. And I will, for the record, note, we have had 1 comment submitted to the commission from the Short North Civic Association, which I did forward on.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state your name to get you sworn in?
Kevin Likens?
Amanda Dunfield.
Thank you. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Turn it over to you guys.
Where do we want to start?
Well, we're kind of filling in, for, Pat's not here, so,
you guys have had, I guess, had an opportunity to look through all the changes that we've made. Would we want to go through those different changes and then we can just kind of go back and forth, or what's your preference?
So I think I think we're I think the biggest thing for us is it looks like this thing's getting huge. A little neighborhood sort of corner bar or restaurant when it first happened, to now wrap around outside patio, seating all around the outside. And this truly is in our neighborhood. And across the street, we don't have any, so you can kind of do what you want to do. But in this neighborhood, close to Neal Avenue, parking, the whole 9 yards, I think it's not one thing, it's a whole bunch of things. And I think, we haven't had a chance to talk through it because I think there's been designers here and people that really couldn't discuss the issues. But I think those are the main issues. And if anyone else has anything to add, I think that's.
Yeah, for me, I mean, between you and what the staff was thinking, I think that what I'm thinking should, overall.
Architecturally, what you're doing, I think either way, awning or it's fine. I think it's the context of where the building sits and the neighborhood that it sits in, and traffic, congestion, parking, all those issues that the neighborhood, noise that the neighborhood responds to.
I also think the vinyl drops are a big deal.
Enclosure.
Enclosures, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The awnings too, I mean, we don't have those awnings on a historic building. As a matter of fact, in the guidelines, there you go, Kelly mentioned it again. When it shows that exact type of awning and says these contemporary awnings are appropriate for new structures, specifically.
So that's kind of, those are the kind of things that have been bouncing back and
Right.
forth since it was first brought in front of us.
Right. So I think to address maybe we'll start with the patio space itself, and you're talking about it being a large structure. And obviously the inside footprint isn't changing. The patio along Third Avenue isn't changing as far as the size of it. There was originally a patio in the rear to the south side. So we're proposing the patio in that area. It's really the primary addition is along Harrison. And that's probably the smallest addition, just because there are only two tops because of the width of it. So really it was to kind of give that continuity of wrapping from Harrison down Third and connecting to that back patio. In the past, what they've always done is they've accessed that back one just from interior. They have a back door there that they go out, and it kind of became, a small patio, smoking lounge. So we were really just trying to get that continuity to wrap the building, and we thought that provided an overall better look and feel for the building. And again, as far as the addition of seats, it's very minimal. I want to say there's, I can't really see up in that thing there, but I think, about 6 tables. So, a total of 12 people that would be adding on that side. So that would be from the footprint standpoint. And as far as like parking, the building currently has 0 parking. And I guess, the interior is where the primary amount of people are going to be. So none of that's changing. So that really wouldn't dictate any additional parking requirement. And then on to the awnings, we proposed initially that more like the one that split the transoms. And then I know that there was some back and forth with, at the last couple of meetings saying, is that appropriate? Was it in the Short North guidelines or was it in the Victorian Village guidelines? I think we tried to find some examples of it. We found some stuff on High Street, whether that was on a newer building or a historic one. I'm not going to speak to that. So then I know that we also did provide an option for an awning that was more similar to what's already currently on the front of the building, covering up all of the transom windows. So we did put 2 proposals out there just so there are options and we can have some discussion points on that subject. So, and then as far as enclosing them, obviously, like any establishment, you want to be able to, have people sit there in the wintertime if you can. So just seasonal is all. And, not so much we're trying to copy what they're doing down the street in an area that's not Victorian Village. And just so we could have, year-round seating is what we're really looking for.
Okay,
I will say, I mean, I don't know, look from the drawing, there are 9 four tops on the side. I mean, it's 40-ish seats.
Yeah,
To your point about it being bigger, Jeff. I think it's 40-ish extra seats outside
yeah, on just the,
the side,
South,
30
yeah, just
south side or
the
the
west.
west side.
west side, yeah.
Yeah, those most likely are gonna be limited to 2 tops just from an access standpoint, from walkability around them, because people, I think, is he showing them as 4s?
Yeah, it's showing them.
Yeah, I think that's gonna get shrunk down to
They're-
2, is what I was
they're-
anticipating. And even if there, you know, from my standpoint, even if there wasn't seating there, I like that continuity wrap in the building coming around, even though it's a walkway. You know, if seating was the primary issue of the commission, I'm pretty open on that. I really think that the look and feel of that building is much better if we can wrap it and provide, you know, provide a kind of a frontage on both streets versus just, Third Avenue.
And I think that's just kind of thinking about if Tim was here, just echoing Tim's thoughts. I think he was kind of alluding to, you know, we understand the gesture in terms of that improvement of the streetscape condition, how that could be a potential improvement. The issue is the offset could be the impact. And so how can maybe that be accomplished in an alternate way?
yeah.
Through site improvements possibly or something of that nature.
And I also think, so the photograph, Third Avenue patio with vinyl drops, I think that photograph is being very lenient on how big that sidewalk is and how much, because one of the things we talked about on Harrison was the right of way. When you're actually doing those. I think Third was okay because it's existing, but I think on Harrison, pushing that out more, I'm not so sure you have with what else is on the sidewalk.
I know we would have to obviously meet code for, DOP.
Right away,
code.
yeah.
Yeah, right away code. So we wouldn't propose anything that wouldn't, or that would interfere with that. And again, that's why I was thinking that, you know, 2 tops is probably what's gonna be realistic over there versus the 4 tops.
Mhm.
If I can ask, what other streetscape improvements are you thinking about?
No, I think that I'm kind of thinking about what Tim was suggesting at that time. I think it was probably his comment from last month and was just him acknowledging that sense of connectivity of the north facade and its wrapping, you know, on the west back to the south. But the challenges with the new openings, challenges more programming being on that west, the impact of the residents that are to the west side. Is there a way to create that sense of connectivity that you guys are trying to achieve in an alternate way? Not a building element, not a programming element. Is there a site improvement element that would allow for that connectivity?
And I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the things we could consider doing, is maybe continuing that fence line, but not have seating there, right? To allow for that circulation and connection and visual, like sort of separation from public walking and where, someone who's, you know, a patron of the bar restaurant would be. But I don't know what else.
I mean, connectivity is very important.
Right.
And connectivity and streetscape view is also very important because right now, you know, all of the old openings that were along the Harrison Avenue side have been infilled and, you know, this bar lends itself to a bar was in the 90s. You know, it's dark, it's dank, it's, you know, and that's why it's not currently successful. It's just, it's not the neighborhood type place that should be there, that's gonna be, you know, vibrant and survive. So that's another thing that we're really pushing for. You know, we don't wanna have the same type of establishment in there that's currently in there. And that's really all that would survive in there.
Who remembers when it was Nani's?
Yep.
I've heard the name, so somebody in the office does.
Governor Celeste, chef, started a restaurant and it started the whole boom in Columbus.
But that was here?
Yeah.
Was that before Hamptons?
Yeah.
Right
That's
before
what I
that?
remember.
That's, and if there's a huge fish tank in there, that was Nani's big draw, was the big fish tank that separated the bar from the eating area.
What's
But
it called?
Nani's,
You have to be 80 to remember.
It was some restaurant. It was before Rigsby's. I mean, it was really,
Oh, really?
she was a, yeah.
It would be fun to see, to try and find photos of that.
Yep, nice.
Very cool.
Historian here.
Okay, that's what's it, season. Season. Season vet. So, I mean, would you guys be able to kind of speak, I think all of these elements, I think, lead to some of the feedback that the neighborhood is probably offering, and it's related to noise. And how do you kind of gently, introduce this new program without having impact? What's your thoughts about being able to resolve those things as we kind of continue this dialogue?
I guess, my thought in concerns with the noise,
Correct.
I really think that what we've shown will be less impactful than what's currently there. Because right now there's zero screening in the back. You go out the back door and there's some boxwood shrubs, and that's the only screening from, and that's really going into the alley primarily. But then that can also feed over to the Harrison Avenue side. On Third, we're not really proposing anything different there. So that's really, so it's really just that small connector that's going from,
But there's no activity back there now.
well, there's
You're
not.
right, there's no screening, but there's nothing going on back there.
So that's just because the current guy isn't busy enough. Before that, when it was busy, that patio there was always people out there.
Gotcha.
But it's still, able to be programmed as far as how it's set up. It's just, there's
Gotcha.
a handful of patrons in there and they wouldn't have much of a need.
To go outside, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
So really, I don't think there would be, I almost think there would be, like I said, less impact. We're proposing some fairly significant screening along the alley side. And then it would wrap a little bit onto Harrison. And then in the winter, if we put the sides of the awning up, and we take care of all the noise.
All right, so how do we move this forward? So we are in a continuing approach, because it seems like there's a lot of still open items to explore, but
I would, even if there's some stuff we can take off this, it's just because, I know we've been back here several times, and the discussion, at least from what I've heard, has been, I think last time it probably focused more on the awning style than as much about the programming. So if there's something we can get a clear direction on, that way we're not, guessing a little bit. I'm coming back. I mean, I really want to hit the ground running on this thing, because as soon as, just from a timing standpoint, as soon as a current tenant, exits the building, I want to be able to get in there and get this thing moving and get something cool in there.
makes sense.
So, so if we want to break it down, even talk a little bit about the awnings and say, I know we've presented both.
Yep.
If we could get, the feedback on that and just, that way we just have a clear direction. I'm okay either way. Probably the only advantage in my view with having the one that splits the transom is just, you're always getting, daylight into the space. Because that's very important to me. I don't want a dank sports club in, or that type of bar in this. I want something that is more of a North Star style that where it's always bright and lively. And so that's why I do like the awning that splits it. But from an aesthetic, I think both of them are fine.
Understandable. Very helpful questions. So let's dialogue on option A or B. I think that's how they kind of proposed them. Option A was the more modern, fin that did open up the clear story, and then option B is the more traditional awning, cloth awning. I think that was just kind of in response to some of the feedback and the guidelines themselves too as well.
So what do we think, gentlemen?
Traditional cloth. Yep.
Traditional.
Option B.
Option B.
Okay.
All right, so that was knocked off. To help them, any thoughts about, we've heard, we understand programming. I think that's going to be something that they're gonna, continue to work through and define. When we talk about the existing or the new openings, I should say the new proposed openings on the facade to the west.
I think we need to see what you're going to do, because we see that, but do we know what the product is and how it's going to operate?
As far as the actual openings, it'd be a wood, a wood storefront that we build in place. And you see, we propose like an opening on kind of like a nano wall, but what I really want them to do is to follow your traditional storefront opening dimensions. I don't want it to be, where you have oversized windows. So I really like it to where you can, when they're closed, I want it to look like a traditional storefront with the same, the divides that we're showing there. I don't want it to read as these are full nanotype openings. And we're only proposing in this one, the windows themselves, we're still keeping the plinth, which would be solid wood, traditional storefront. And then we're also proposing, so that would be fixed, the transom would be fixed.
Okay,
So the existing openings right now, there's a series of punches. So on that west facade, there's a series of punches. When you turn the corner, it's all considered new openings related to the new program. Just.
Sorry, just to clarify, along the Harrison side, that there is an opening at the, so we'll work from the back of the building forward, which is south to north.
Yes.
There's a infilled opening that's existing.
Yes. That's correct.
That's gonna remain infilled
Yes.
with I think it's a wood panel with trim. The next opening is an existing opening that is infilled right now to turn back into a door with a clear story and a side light.
it would be helpful to have a picture of the kind, so we can see sort of the palimpsest of what we have there.
Yeah,
I think there's a picture on
This
there.
would be a picture of the existing.
Or are you talking about like the JPEG photo as opposed to one of the multi?
Existing of what that looks like now, so this has been filled in, this is an opening that is open.
Yeah, do we have a full?
There isn't really a good elevation that shows an existing condition that kind of gives us.
More details.
But would it help to have those pictures more as submitted as like individual photos?
I'm gonna try to help a little bit from the conversation.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think she's speaking about these two openings here, and then now, after you get to these two openings, then it jumps up to the two.
Right, and now we're talking,
Yeah, and those would be the new ones.
so,
Because I think there are some smaller openings up along that side.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that helps from a clarity perspective, for sure. Any thoughts, concerns that would help them move forward in the proposal development?
yeah, I guess my thing is, and I might be speaking for people that aren't here. Or, we have this commission is of a new mixture of people. And the whole idea of making openings in an existing building that weren't there are always problematic. I think that's the easiest way to say it.
It's been recently, for sure. Which is understandable.
Understand you want to wrap it, but, at one time it fronted third and, it didn't really have openings on, but you're trying to do that. I think that you could run into some pushback, not only from commissioners, but also from the neighborhood.
To me, again, from the Civic Association, it sounded like it was more of a noise factor versus a design intent. I know that, one of the voices was former commissioner, so he had some, input from almost extending as a commissioner viewpoint, but it maybe less as a neighbor, but it really.
I just think we should bring all these things up and think about what our options are, what our strategies are. So we're baselining right now.
Right.
So as we move forward, we can just move through these smoothly, not, oh, we did this, but you said this, we did this, but you said this.
Mhm.
Because, I've read through what the neighborhood has said, but I'm not so sure being in these things, they've said everything yet. And so what I want to do is make sure that we're baselining,
For sure.
making new openings in existing building, noise in neighborhoods, landscaping, parking. So we can address each of these as we go through the applicant process. Good, bad, or indifferent, I think we should just
So
frame it that way.
are you, to clarify, is what you're saying about the openings, that the commission would prefer, or would only approve keeping existing openings in place?
That's my opinion.
Or.
Well, I mean, you guys can speak right now, because this isn't a good time, because they need to hear
Yeah,
this
for sure.
stuff.
Yeah, support, for sure.
I would support reopening things that have been closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, so some of these openings that are on the Harrison side are, like smaller windows that are higher? What if we kept the lintel and extended that opening down to a lower elevation?
So basically just expanding.
Enlarging openings, yeah, that also is problematic.
I mean, I know it's not unheard of to add new openings on buildings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know we're not asking something that's never been done before.
Correct,
Correct.
correct. But you're sort of beginning to hear the tenor of the mix of the neighborhood and the commission now.
Okay, I know we keep coming back, we have heard different things each time, and, you know, one time we didn't hear as much that it couldn't be new openings, it was more focused on noise. So that's why, we've made changes, like last time it was the majority was the awnings, so we did make that change. So it's just, to me, that's what's always tough, is, we're going back and we're spending another month, and I feel a lot like we're guessing.
Yeah.
Like we're guessing at what it should be,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Yeah, and I think, Kevin, I think that in response to that, I think that's why we're stopping right now.
That's why I'm level,
And have
that's
that-
why I'm level setting.
And have
So
that
we don't
dialogue.
go back and forth and back and
That's
forth and
right.
back and forth. We're level setting right now. You heard. We have this opinion, we have this opinion. We have concerns about this, we have concerns about that. So if you build from that, we're gonna be much more successful going through this process than looking at one thing and hearing one thing and looking at one thing and hearing one thing. I want you to hear it all so you can be successful in your application process and push through this.
And there's a lot going on here too. I think it does take a little bit of discussion, time to unwrap all of that. I get the frustration, but it just does take a while to get from the noise to the openings or whatever.
Yep.
And you do also have different commissioners and sometimes different opinions too.
For sure.
Time to time, or meeting to meeting, or.
Yeah, sometimes time to time, meeting to meeting, but I mean, you get.
But true, I mean, this meeting is different than our usual traditional meeting
Yeah.
because we're missing two people and their opinions can be in line, opposite to what we think, or a combination of both. So, I mean, our meetings with this new mix, it's definitely, from my experience, it's a different mode of operation. And it's a good mode, but it's different for us and how we deal with things. But we've been successful working on complex projects. It's just different.
Appropriate, say again.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
For sure. All right, Kevin, so.
I didn't like any of them when it started. I like these guys.
So.
They add wonderful things to the commission.
You just tolerate them all.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
So what is the path forward to getting approval? So that if it's not today, that the next time that we can get approval. So our sticking points, right, are noise.
Mhm.
Being cognizant of the existing openings and either minimizing, reducing, or not at all changing openings.
Yes.
Worry about additional seating, right?
That would be noise.
Part of the noise.
That's part of the noise. Okay. Not concerned about activating that corner more, just from a placemaking standpoint, right?
No
That's
one's-
exciting, right?
Yeah,
Like, isn't that nice?
Exactly, for sure.
Absolutely.
Right.
Want the fabric awnings, even though that's going to cover up historic transoms. I think those things are at odds personally, as a
We understand.
person who likes historic buildings. And then up for debate is still then the fabric, the seasonal fabric covering. Yeah, the drops, there we go.
You wrote all the 5 points.
Okay,
so-
That was wrong.
I have a question for the commission that we haven't touched on, which is we had asked them either at the business meeting or the last hearing about the proposed signage. So they did include a kind of mock-up blade sign about where it would be. Do we have any concerns about placement or dimensions? Or are we okay with that location with possible some variation depending on what tenant comes there?
Do you know where that was?
So
Remember, see, I don't remember what.
here's my take on that. I see where they put that in. I think it's sort of a place marker for a tenant. Depending on the tenant and depending on what the signage, I mean, I think it could be bigger, smaller, more grandiose or not. I don't know, because I haven't seen what those things might be. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard because it's a corner, and a corner says many things in architecture. And when you put it on one edge or the other edge, or do you wrap it like you're wrapping the rest of it? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you can think of it doing.
I know that was brought up. I kind of think of that separately because it is tenant dependent. What the tenant may want. And then that would come back and we would look at that.
I mean, they listened, they followed.
They did.
Put a place marker in
They
there.
did, and that's-
But, you know, it is, I can't respond to it because it really doesn't say anything. It's just a place for signage.
Yeah, I usually like to have a placeholder. I always want to give the tenants a direction.
Yeah.
And signage specifications are pretty specific. I think that's pretty low hanging fruit.
That's easy. Not a lot of subject to it.
All right, so we was gonna start checking these off. All right, so noise, we talked about noise.
Yep.
Right, I think you have an understanding.
Yes.
You have an understanding of the concerns of the neighborhood as well, outside of that. So awnings, we've talked about that, even though there's mixed emotions. And as she mentioned, but option B, from that perspective. Existing openings, I think that Jeff offered a real good description and understanding of the hurdles, related to that. And some of the other neighborhood civic association elements were outlined as well. Program, I think all of those things kind of have impacts of program, right? So signage, that one's checked off. The last one is enclosure, is the vinyl drops. So just kind of thinking about it, I think the concern is.
And then the other one that you don't specifically, and I think the neighborhood will specifically say, is parking.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, parking.
So noise and parking, I think, are gonna be biggies.
Is parking even a question though? I don't think so, since it's we're not changing the base footprint of the building. So I don't think that comes into play.
There's no change in use related to this, right?
No.
So,
No, so I don't think parking's even a question that they could ask.
okay.
I will tell you, even if the code says I only need one parking space, the neighborhood will say something.
They can ask.
Yeah.
We don't have.
So that's why we're baseline.
Right.
Good discussion, good discussion.
Yep.
Good item to think of. All right, so the last one is enclosure, vinyl drops. So, it seems like the condition is really the concern of, how permanent are these? What is the condition in terms of hiding the facade? How do you manage that? How do you put some stipulations on, being able to maintain that sense of facade's presence with these being in place, or these elements being in place? So that's what I'm reading from some of the dialogue and responsiveness from the neighborhood. So can we just have a discussion on that, and I will give the team a sense of direction.
Yeah, I think if you go back and digest all this, I think we'll be ready to make movement.
Anything else on the enclosures at all? You guys?
I have a huge concern that if we improve enclosures here, we're gonna see enclosures everywhere. And they don't fit the buildings, they don't fit the neighborhood, in my opinion.
And I guess I don't know the stipulations from that standpoint as far as if it's a temporary, kind of consider like a temporary tent structure.
So the one time, it's, okay, the historians come through. It's coming
Oh,
through right now.
Did Nani have that?
Covered, no. Covered grill was the first and only time we did
On the side.
on the north side.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a temporary structure where the fence came up
Yeah.
and everything came up.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being sort of permanent structure.
Yeah.
And I think we weren't, we didn't define it enough, but it was one of the first things that we went through and, they were having a hard time and we tried to accommodate and we are there because of that. And then COVID came on with the temporary structures, but those were all temporary.
Right.
This is different. So again, we're gonna have to have discussion around that.
Okay, and we'll make note of that as well, that, whether, that it's seasonal, temporary, and we'll address like how, we'll think of a way to get you comfortable in our, like, as far as to know that it is a temporary structure and not something that's gonna end up becoming permanent.
Yeah.
So we'll,
It's like Hudson 29 on Lane Avenue. Doesn't look too great, when it's down, but in the summer when it's activated and it's up and people are enjoying the streetscape and eating outside, it's very nice.
yes, Zeno's is a good example.
Hmm?
Zeno's,
Yeah,
it doesn't look the greatest when it's down.
yeah.
But
Are those drops gonna work with the cloth awning that we?
We're gonna have to figure out a different structure.
Okay,
That awning structure would not allow,
yeah,
well, unless, to my knowledge, that's not gonna work.
okay.
Got it.
So does that give you everything now?
Yep, I think so.
And again, we
Guys are
appreciate
wearing
it.
us out.
We just show you that. So,
Let's
so
do.
we're motion to continue?
Yes.
So motion to continue, is there?
BB 2309-08-335 West Third Avenue, motion to continue.
Is there a second?
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion continues. Thank
See you in a
so
few
much.
weeks.
Thank you.
Gonna be quick,
Got it.
know.
Thank you.
gonna be quick.
I am going to ask for a quick break if everybody's okay with that. Hopefully no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. Yes, understandable.
I'll be back then.
That was 8, I think. Maybe 2 more, maybe.
2.
I always leave makeup on.
We had one that was skipped, I think that's why.
Are we still recording?
Yes, we are still recording, we are still live streaming.
Thank you.
I was just telling Jose, I typically don't turn it off, so don't forget to turn it back on.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that, so I don't say anything bad about it.
And people say it to my face after.
Love it.
What assortment of cookies did you go with?
I'm so upset because I thought we'd be able to share them.
We were gonna get cookies.
I bought 36 cookies from all of us and I thought we would share them and then she could take some home.
That'd be awesome.
They have all sorts of rules.
Hell yeah,
Still have 2 more?
2 more.
Didn't we skip one if I remember correctly though?
No, she was in the hallway.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you.
May I be excused?
Of course. Of course.
Yes, it's very much. Did Sean, did your firm do anything to celebrate this week?
We didn't do anything additional yet. We're trying to figure out what do we want to do, But it was a great accomplishment. It's one of our goals this year, and so which was helpful. So it's a pretty big deal for us.
It's a pretty big deal in general.
So we appreciate that. We really do. And your son? What did the team do? What did your team do?
Slocum got,
Yeah.
I know it's a finalist for a heritage.
Okay. Okay. Trying to understand a little bit more, but it's hard to capture what goes in those projects in a few slides.
Yeah, and so the ones that are historic preservation projects that don't have additions.
Yeah.
So rarely get AIA award.
Exactly.
Because if you do a good job, you can't have what you did.
I know. But it's like, that's, you know.
Which is pressure. So that's why there's a pretty elevation. It's good. That's well, actually, yeah, that's right.
For sure. The criteria, is definitely, there's a different thought process between the two. That library is absolutely, you know, just because it's a juxtaposition between the two, but it has that presence.
Yeah. There's something visible different. I mean, there are things that slip into, but it's more so. It's one of the big things we did is it had never been accessible. Like it never had an elevator. So it never had back to the first floor.
Okay.
So trying to put an elevator into a strip of make it accessible. The hard thing is with this photograph because we did a good job making it easily accessible and findable, but not visible.
For sure.
So how do you get a photograph of it?
I got you. No, that's definitely a challenge. No, I definitely appreciate that sensitivity, to you guys' work. It's pretty cool.
But yeah, if you're ever at Ohio Wesleyan Spoken, it's pretty 1890s library. It's good. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah. It's like an atrium. It was like probably an atrium.
Yeah. Big stained glass kind.
Hard to find those spaces.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for Commissioner Schuler to get back before we begin.
Yes.
I don't want to repeat the staff reports.
That's understandable.
Oh, we still have two, don't
Yeah, there too.
Yes.
We're gonna. Sure.
All set then?
Oh, sorry.
No,
you're fine.
And thank you both for your patience. We'll start back up with application number 717 Dennison Avenue. This application is to repair the southeast chimney and tuck point, add new iron handrailing to the 2 sets of concrete steps leading up to the front porch, replace the front porch deck and any deteriorated wood to match existing, add new handrails with balusters, paint the porch per the approved paint schedule, the balustrade to match the existing column color and the porch floor color to be submitted for approval prior to painting. Commissioners at the business meeting thought the metal handrails were too decorative and recommended simplifying them. The stairs either needed to be widened to eliminate the fall hazard off of the porch, or the proposed railings needed to be extended to the steps. The drawings should include where the metal handrails are being placed. Commissioners did find the proposed porch balusters and rails appropriate. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the wrought iron railing is simplified per the commission suggestion. The basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, these standards for alteration, as well as City Code 3116.13, these standards for site improvements, and Victorian Village guidelines regarding fences, yards, and porches.
Perfect. Thank you, Kimberly. Can you say your name, sir? Get you sworn in?
Joseph Hess.
Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, so I had a existing certificate that was extended. It's a multi-year project. I've been working on the house. I believe had extensive water damage baked in over the first 100 years of the home. And then ever since then, there has been no true work other than cosmetic work. So I'm completely done on the north and west side of the house with the original scope, and it's turned out beautiful. And I'm doing wrapped around, focused on the south and east side to do my best work on those visible to the street. This proposal here is new scope work because city inspector found violations with things that never existed, and I didn't appeal because I have to agree with every point in there. So that's why I'm here. This was not something I really wanted to attack today, this year. I was hoping to, once I finish my first scope of work, to get on to the next, but because of this catalyst, we're dealing with these. I'm not interested in quick solutions that meet code. I walked down every street of Victorian Village to develop my ideas, so I'm pleased that the design of the new railing and balusters that never existed are acceptable. I wanted something that's in fitting with the house and the neighborhood as well. When it comes to the railing, I agree that is something that is needed. This was a simple design that I selected from a standard book from a manufacturer in town. And I appreciate all of your feedback. It helps develop the best outcome. The arch, I'm really not, it wasn't my idea, and I actually prefer the idea of removing that. So I'm all for a simple handrail with posts, and the original design to meet code was 2 sets of handrails. I didn't get time to submit a new sketch before the deadline Monday, but I would like most likely to end up with a final design of a continuous railing that goes up the first set of steps across and then up the final set of steps to the porch as well, where it would just be a railing with the post.
So you would stop it though, so you would address your railing composition would do the first series of steps, it would stop. And then you would have another set of railings that would address the porch threshold.
It would,
No,
They
he's
can say
saying,
continuous.
he's saying it's
continuous
continuous
rail.
sidewalk up,
Yep,
porch.
you got it.
On one side, yeah,
Just on one side, yeah.
On one side,
yeah.
got it. Okay. All right, very helpful. Is there anything else there?
The chimney, I mean, I don't think a lot to discuss there. I've been up, taking a close look, because most of the contractors, I think, are looking from the street, so I know what needs to be done, and it will be refurbished, so that there's some bricks have to be reset and tuck pointing and all that.
For sure.
When it comes to the porch, obviously the issue is adding the new railing and balusters. I see the recommendation where between the columns, there's still a gap there, so I think my preference would be, rather than changing the steps, to extend the railing and baluster so that it meets the steps, and then the iron railing will come up to meet it.
So this,
Pardon?
They'll have a little piece of wood on either side.
No, yeah, extend the wood railing that's on the porch.
got it.
Yes. Yes, it would only be, I think it's 15 inches.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
So the clearance to walk through, the railing baluster and post would be 15 and only
Okay.
15 inches.
I
get it now. I understand. Okay. Any further, any comments, team? So we have a railing, we have a chimney, we have a porch compositions. So seems like the chimney's pretty simple. It's just more of a tuckway. No change in aesthetics, no change in character. The railings, obviously, just as I think we just said simplify. I think that was a comment maybe at the business meeting. So I think that seems like the gentleman is open to that. So that's good. And the clarification was one side, continuous on one side. And then the porch is the porch composition of the balusters and how that transition of the ironwork and iron really with the wood.
So I guess my only, I don't think that, I can't even remember seeing, a single railing going from a sidewalk to a porch. I've never seen that, so I think we need to see that. What that looks like, how it's divided, how it's supported.
Yes, so, whether we finally end up with two separate railings at each set of stairs
just need to
or
see what-
continuous, I'm fine with either. I can provide drawing, I have one, I can
Yep.
email it so you guys can all see it, submit it.
Yep.
Perfect.
And I think there's a question about the placement of it, plan view. I'm not sure. I thought that was part of the comments.
That was one thing staff would like to see, because we'll need to know what side it's on.
Okay,
Okay.
that's not something, that is something staff.
Because I submitted a profile, but you'd like a plan to show it.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
that way we know what side it's going on. It'll also help
Yes.
the code officer as well know where it's
Sure.
supposed to be located.
All right. And then the railing composition, I'm still struggling with the transition between, that 15 or so inches.
Me too, I'm not sure how that ends.
Right, that's all. And so typically, traditionally, what you would see the iron rail itself would
Come up.
make that transition and attach to the post or column.
That's what I was doing.
And so you wouldn't have another, I want to say, segment of wood guardrail
Yes,
that would be on the opposition, on the left or right side of the two center posts.
okay, so I don't really, I love the simplicity of just the railing. Can we, from the top post to where it would bend gracefully 90 to the wooden post, have the metal balusters maybe?
Well, so the problem is if you're only doing it on one side, you
yes.
still have your other side that's open.
But I think that could possibly change, right? The two sides or one side for your railing?
So if
Could-
you did, if this condition is equal on either sides, your first run could be your metal railing bending off the column and going down the first set of your main steps. And then you could have on one side of your sidewalk, that continuing down on one side. That would be probably the best situation. So your front facade, your porch would be consistent and beautiful. And then you would have the utility of having one railing going down one side.
At the second set of steps.
Okay, but, so for the 15, so you're saying both sides just for the final set of steps up to the porch?
Correct.
So you would see your metal railing connect, come out, turn, and come down your steps. So it would be uniform on either side, and then you would have one side, left or right, whatever you choose. And that railing would continue down your sidewalk.
Okay, so submit plans for that and share it with the inspector too?
Yeah,
So you wouldn't need to share it with the inspector until it got finalized.
Okay,
Yeah, just so you're not doing extra work if you
Yeah.
don't need to. Because He'll ask me if you're still working with me and I can let him know it's
Uh-huh.
flux, because he typically likes checking at the very end that everything has been addressed.
Okay, that'll add cost, but it's a good solution, I think.
Yeah.
So it seems like most of this is gonna continue. We could break the chimney apart if it would help you start to move forward with any of that work. But it seems like the other two components, which is the railing, and selection of the porch condition to resolve that. That's kind of part of that railing composition, and you're probably gonna have changes to that you're gonna wanna come back through. So the only item that we probably could move forward with is breaking the chimney apart and approving that potentially today.
Unless you wanted everything approved all at the same time.
That's been a challenge with getting proposals, so timeline wise, I don't mind waiting, but
Okay.
if you'd like to break it.
No, it was only if if it was a.
Needed to get the work started.
Right, so we can keep it all together.
The positive thing about it is if you get a proposal and you can move on it versus just waiting, because that's something that we're all okay with.
I mean, and the porch work, I'll let the commissioner know, I'm trying not to be distracted. I think it's the original scope of work up at the box cutter and cornice. To get all that complete, it's been multiple years, and I won't be starting porch work until I'm done with up there and keeping him updated on schedule for all that, so.
Okay, so we'll do a motion to continue, we'll keep it all together. And we can kind of continue that.
Okay, so I come back in a month then, or?
Yes, sir. So with a new plan,
You'll have a week from today to submit updated materials to be on the October agenda.
A week with all of the new plan?
Yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes.
It's a tight turnaround,
Yeah.
but since we have the month review period, it's kind of how we allow people that are heard this month beyond next.
I see.
Because the deadline is tomorrow, so. We like to be able to work with applicants to give them a little bit more leeway, especially if they're here 2 months in a row.
Okay.
So is there a motion to continue?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Motion to continue VB 2309-019, 717 Denison Avenue. Do I need to say anything beyond that, or is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Have a good evening.
All right, last item on the agenda, which is number 9, is 209 West 3rd Avenue. This application is to replace the existing front porch roof and supports. The existing concrete slab and stairs would remain, replace the existing front door. The new porch shingles would be the GAF slate line, English gray slate, remove the aluminum siding, and restore the existing 4-inch clapboard siding that would be repaired and painted. Replace the existing windows with the new double hung Geldon sightline windows and the existing rough openings. The existing picture window with stained glass would remain. Commissioners at the business meeting noted that the replacement front door needs to be wood and that the design should come from the Victorian Village guideline. They suggested a 4-panel door, noting that the 6-panel door in the guidelines has different proportions. They also noted that the transom should be restored. A window schedule and paint chips for the proposed paint colors were also requested. The commission requested that if additional siding types were discovered under the aluminum siding, such as shingle siding under the eaves, that these variations were kept maintained. Gutters and downspouts need to be shown on the drawings, especially the new front porch, as the commission wants to know how water runoff will be mitigated. The applicant provided updated materials showing the requested alteration. Staff recommends approval of the application as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of the certificate. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, and the Victorian Village guidelines for siding, and the Victorian Village guidelines for windows and doors.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state your name, get you sworn in?
Kim Mechanic?
Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, no, you're totally fine, understandable. So do you have anything to add?
No, I think Kimberly pretty much presented everything. The owner just wanting to, there's been some probably poor, vinyl, actually aluminum siding and window replacement over the years. So the owner just wants to bring the building, up to a better standard. So I think he's may have had some water damage in the past. So we're just trying to make it a nice home from the outside.
Any comments related to staff's approval, or I should say staff?
Bob, the change in the door, is the transom being,
We know, in my update material, I agreed we'd put a new glass transom in. It'd probably be fixed glass, not an operable one, and then we would switch to a 4-panel door.
yeah, anything else?
Any other comments at all?
Nope.
All right. Is there a motion? It seems like it was just too easy. That's
Yeah, I haven't had surprise, but
We can make something up.
Please don't.
hopefully it's an actual concern.
VV 2309020209 West Third Avenue, as updated submission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I have one item that I did notice. So the railing is that a wood railing? That is a wood railing on the porch.
It is a wood railing, yes,
That is a new wood railing.
yes.
What is the handrail that's coming down the steps?
It will also be wood to match similar to the railing on the porch.
Because it wasn't shown in the side elevation. So that's all I just asked.
Okay.
Is there any concern with it? Most of the time, I'll try to say that could transition to metal.
That could be that could, to simplify it, because of how that sits on the street,
Yeah.
it could be a little too much to do. Move it
Okay.
Down, so a simple metal
Sure,
off that,
yeah, that's fine, we could,
okay?
yes.
Awesome. Would someone agree to that amendment in their motion and second?
Oh,
Second.
Please have that added to the motion that Commissioner Hisson presented.
Awesome.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Motion passed.
And I will note, I will be requiring an updated drawing just to capture that detail. As
Okay.
well as,
Thank you.
and if you're gonna do a specific brand, if you have a cutter product sheet for that handrail.
Okay, I'll look into that and I'll get something to you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you. All right, one item probably for new business, as we mentioned at the business meeting, we will be moving next door for the business meeting. Somebody had requested, what,
just for the next one or all?
no, for all of them.
Okay.
There had been a request that if a larger group needed to use this room, that it would be available, and since
Understandable.
we don't get
Is
too
that
many
the
people.
27?
Yes, that's the next one.
Yes. Meeting, new red.
Yeah, my project is coming to a close that has been having impact as of lately.
Okay.
So that's.
Whatever.
So,
Yes, essentially, if you wander up to the second floor, you'll be able to figure out where you are.
for sure.
Because we'll.
It's exactly what'll happen. I'll walk in here, you won't be in here, I'll go, oh yeah, it's next door.
Cancel. See you later.
You'll see either.
No
so-
quorum. No quorum.
Man, you're
No quorum.
close though, right? You got October.
Yep. If we want more questions, I can answer off record.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
All righty, kids.